States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our village resident, Robin Reynolds, member of Montgomery Fire Department and member of our AHRB committee. Thank you.
Okay, first thing is to approve our abstract 3B of 2026, $74,951.38.
Second. Aye.
Okay, old business, 3.
I would like to move forward. I've been working with, sorry. I know you just want me to take down the light. I haven't been working with, I haven't been working with Anna Cruz a bit on the open space grant. And now time is of the essence with that. To identify the properties, trustee, and can also give an update on that as well. And we've engaged with a little bit with the Conservation Advisory Council on Seymour here. About a space that's in the center of town, so I would like to know if it's okay with the board if we proceed with that through Anna Cruz with open space grant this year, and then as soon as we put in the initial application, we can report back where and what and go from there. That's something I need to vote on.
Do we have to make a motion?
Yep.
Good to go?
You're good.
Okay. That's there's one coming out and sends out. She sends out to everybody. All boards within town, villages, updates, so it's way more streamlined now, so it's pretty forward facing.
Okay. And next we have requests Board of Trustees approval on Hanover. We need Ross is going to make a presentation. What? Oh, was he going to speak to the negotiators?
No.
Yeah.
All right, let me just give me a second, please. Good evening, I'm sorry I'm late. I was at a wake relative past, obviously. Another member of the greatest generation gone. So, salute the flag and be with me. Thank you.
Just for everybody's and Jim Lavelle, I know that the agenda reflects request Board of Trustees approval and then Jim Lavelle to speak. We're going to hear Ross's presentation and then obviously let you speak first, Jim, before we enter any vote, just so you're not nervous about that. Hopefully I can speak loud enough from here. Come on, Mike.
Good evening, Ross Wingleton, Engineering and Surveying Properties. I'm here tonight with John Powell, Council for the project. We were before the board in January regarding our application for the approval from the village board in accordance with your village code 12250, which requires projects that receive approval in front of the planning board and have more than 4,000 square foot of commercial or more than 4 apartments come before the board for approval. At the time, there was a number of questions about the history, some of them about specifics on the project. We put together a response to that in a letter dated February 20th to the board. And I just want to go over it briefly. The response kind of initially outlines the project history. This project has been around since September of 2021, so it's not new. Shouldn't surprise anybody. It spent about 10 months in front of the planning board and the zoning board at that time. There was a public hearing in front of the planning board and a public hearing in front of the zoning board, both one in 2021 and one in 2022. At the 2022, when the variance was granted for height of the building and side yard, the project took a pause for a while due to economics. It was pretty expensive to build. There were some decisions being made about the project. Architect actually had retired, so we were looking for a new architect because, frankly, too, we weren't happy with the building look. In the fall of 23, we hired a new architect and came in with a new plan, which is the plan that we developed right about the same time the village was applying for their grant through the New York Forward program. That was in the fall of 23. Soon thereafter, we were solicited by members of the village to say, hey, this is a project that is fully endorsed in the New York Forward grant. This is something that New York is looking for. Part of this grant, they're looking to, redevelop downtowns, and mixed-use buildings are a large part of that equation. So we applied for that grant in the summer of 24. After the village was granted a $4.5 million grant from the state. This is the specific project that was presented. Basically, this building that you see in front of you, which was developed with our new architect, Joe Thompson, and the plan that was developed. And they're consistent from what was developed for the New York Forward grant and submitted and was subject to multiple public meetings as part of that grant, in addition to the ones that were previously held for the project, and was ultimately endorsed the committee, including Mayor Hembury, who was part of that committee, and we appreciate that endorsement, for the grant. The state then at the time evaluated the different projects, and then May of 25 awarded the grants to the different projects in the village. This was one of them that was specifically noted as a transformational project for the village. And at that point, we went back to the planning board to pursue finalizing our site plan approval. During that process, there was another public hearing held, and the board, since it had been a few years since they had done seeker, and they did another coordinated review, which they reached out to any agencies who had approval and asked them for any comments they may have regarding seeker and whether they objected to them completing the seeker project. And that coordination included this board in the fall of 25. There were no comments provided to the planning board from any of the agencies, and the planning board went ahead and declared themselves lead agency, and ultimately in December of 25, just 3 or 4 months ago, the board declared a negative declaration under seeker for the project, granted preliminary site plan approval. That brings us to this board, where we applied soon thereafter, and I made our initial presentation here in January. During the meeting in January, there were several comments. There was questions about, was there a traffic study, parking study? So the secret determination that the board made, the planning board made, after doing a coordinated review, included a response that the project's village business district. The project is located in close proximity to municipal parking lots. The project is unlikely to generate an increased number of traffic trips. This is the planning board's approval motion, seeker motion. The proposed action will not impact any existing transit access or existing pedestrian bicycle accommodations. The village building inspector has determined that no variances for parking or parking waivers are required for the project. Based upon the aforegoing, the planning board finds the proposed action will not have a significant adverse environmental impact. So that was a culmination of the process that this board was asked to participate in as part of seeker review of the project. Question was about how many parking spaces are available in the village, in this area. So we took a look at that, took an aerial photo. We're here all day, so we have an idea of where everybody parks. We took a pretty conservative analysis based on our village code. It insinuates that parking spaces within 500 feet of your property would be available. We counted over 280 spaces, public spaces, including public parking lots and on-street spaces that are within 500 feet of this property. If you go to other sources like ITE, Institute of Traffic Engineers, they suggest even further distances should be counted when you're looking at public parking, up to 600 feet for customers and up to 1,500 feet for employees. But the number we looked at was 500 feet based on your village code and the fact that it talks about the parking being exempt from within 500 feet. So that's what we used. Does parking meet the code was one of the questions. It does. It was a determination of the building inspector that I just read that indicated it meets the code. There's an automatic waiver, in his opinion, for any commercial projects, commercial portions of the projects. This has a total of 13 residential units, so under his interpretation, we would need 26 parking spaces. We would not need any for commercial. We do have parking for commercial, and as part of coming back to this board with this plan, we've added additional parking spaces. We had an area here that was a green area where we have reconfigured the site. We've added 6 additional parking spaces as well as configured street frontage to allow for 3 on-street parking spaces, which are basically off the traveled way. So it'll be similar to the 2 spaces that are in front of the residence next door. So we've added 9 additional parking spaces to this plan. And again, under the code, 26 would be required if we built all 13 units. Our goal is not to do that right now. It's 11 units in the new building with commercial downstairs, and to have our existing building stay as is. We're the landlords, we're the builders, we're right here, we'll be right next door, and that's our plan. There's a question about resident parking. Your code requires resident parking be provided on site, and we will. And as part of the planning board's approval, they require us to actually sign those spots. So when residents do come home at night, they have a spot to park at. There's a comment regarding the code being outdated as it applies to parking. The village just reviewed the master plan, just updated their zoning code. No changes were made to this section of parking requirements, so that's been consistent and was reviewed as part of your master plan and your new zoning update just recently. John, did you have anything you wanted to add?
The only thing I could have sat down. The only thing I would add is, I really would impress to the board that in 35 years of practicing this, all you ever hear is preference for infill development, preference for traditional neighborhood design. This is everything your comprehensive plan calls for. This is everything that new zoning and appropriate zoning calls for. There are very few alternatives that I see. I mean, I've been here and I've been before your boards representing other types of projects, and what people say is, no, we want downtown revitalization. This is exactly what we are all calling for, which is why I believe your village put this as part of the grant application and why the state funded this application. And when the state gives money, they like to see it be used. So I hope in consideration the board will say, we're thankful for this money. We're thankful for accomplishing what we set out to do with our comprehensive plan. And the other thing I wanted to point out with the reason we're here tonight is a provision in your code that is not a regular provision that I frankly have ever seen. The law provides a municipality the ability to appoint boards, to adopt, your board has the ability to adopt zoning and adopt comprehensive plans. You also have potential site plan and special permit. However, you authorize the planning board to grant those approvals. By law, the planning board who you authorize to grant those approvals have granted them conditionally. The law we're here under is not a special permit law. It's not a site plan law. It's not a site plan. It's not any category recognized in New York State zoning provisions. And it actually goes on to say, when it talks about your jurisdiction, it says the Board of Trustees delegated its authority over many matters to administrative boards or officers. However, such boards and officers are limited in their administrative capacities by the strict text of the laws and regulations constituting the village's comprehensive plan. That is the law. You are the board who adopted the comprehensive plan, and to say we want a veto power because we don't want our planning boards to have to follow the comprehensive plan that we adopted seems a bit odd to me. However, in a spirit of cooperation, we're here and we believe it warrants whatever approval this board, needs to grant. I think Ross has very succinctly summarized the years of the process that the board has, that the applicant has been before your boards, the work it has done, the determinations that have been made by your building department, by your planning board, by your zoning board of appeals. So we would hope that the board would recognize that and grant this approval so this project can move forward.
Ross, at the beginning you said I endorsed the grants. Yeah. But I didn't endorse plans who got the grants. So that's what you did. So, yeah, who would not endorse the grants? I endorsed $4.5 million. Where it went to, the state granted that. And the plans are what we're here to decide today. So I think by bringing my name
And he indicated that they were probably looking for a parking waiver. Mr. Samuelson, one of the applicants, said we have enough parking for every single residential unit, which would be 22. But we don't fill the full number for the commercial. Well, the commercial could be, 25 or 30, depending on what they're using. So they're not even close to 22. But he did set we're 500 feet above a village lot. I'm assuming he means the one down at the senior citizens. Attorney McKay said, as far as I know, we don't have a parking district, which is a technical term or a legal term. Villages can't have separate districts. Therefore, we have to go to the ZBA for a variance on parking. Now, this is the attorney for the planning board saying we have to go to the ZBA for a variance on parking. Mr. Samuelson says, the board has issued waivers on multiple projects in the past. I've been coming to this board for 20 years. And they continue to talk about how these things were done in the past and whether there was a misinterpretation of the language in the past. The consultant, the engineering consultant, as part of this conversation, he said, I think there has been a misinterpretation of how we grant these waivers. And he quotes different sections, and he says, where they're quoting the variances, and he said, in that section, I think it clearly states that it has to go to the ZBA. So these are the two consultants, one a lawyer, one the engineer, saying it has to go to the ZBA. There's some confusion about whether it did go to the ZBA. There was a meeting in early December. There was a motion to table it, and then right after that, there was rumors that the ZBA never should have had that meeting, that it's already been declared that there's no issue with this and they shouldn't have had the meeting. When you go to the December board meeting of the planning board, it says that the building inspector has determined that no variances or parking waivers are required. Now, the building inspector did that before he even knew how this commercial space was going to be used. Was it going to be 40 short or 45 short? But he makes this decision. So the planning board just moves on with the regular course of business. The same thing happened. The building inspector also approved 7 spots, 77 Clinton Street within the last. He did this a year and a half after it got a COO. So that means that there's like 47 to 52 spots just 100 yards on Clinton Street that the building inspector just, without any documentation, without any reference to a code, has just declared no waivers, no parking spots are needed. Now it says in the code that decisions of the building inspector can be challenged. You have to follow the format of the Board of Appeals, which is the planning board, and you have to follow the format that they outline for the appeal, and you go to the municipal office and get the forms. Well, I went to the, the village office, and there are no forms. And there is no procedure for appealing what the building inspector says. And then it dawned on me what Mr. Samuel said. This has been going on for 20 years. And I was saying, what's been going on for 20 years? Well, the zoning board and the Board of Appeals never have to make decisions on these things on site parking. It's made by the building inspector. And no one ever challenges it because, we don't know what the procedure is. Now, I'd just like to quote one thing in the Board of Appeals in their waivers for on-site parking. And I'm sure maybe you're all aware of it, but I like to quote it just for, to get it on the record. So it says to waive required off-street parking in a case when a municipality owns or operates a public parking area within 500 feet and where the Board of Appeals determines that there is no need for additional parking space, the waivers can be granted. Now, I didn't catch the exact number, but I think there's like 75 parking spots within 500 feet. Now, if anybody tells me that the Board of Appeals can determine that no additional parking spots are needed in this area, why even have a Board of Appeals? Why even have a zoning Board of Appeals? The zoning Board of Appeals is even more restricted in their granting, and it's more legal because it depends on whether they're a municipal parking district, and I'm not aware, I don't want to get into it, but they have requirements. Both the zoning board and the appeals board have requirements that I'm assuming the building inspector has to abide by too. But apparently not. He can just come in, say there's no waivers needed, no documentation, and the project goes down. That's not right. This is probably even worse if this is a process that's been going on for 20 years or more. How many people have been harmed? How many people have been neglectfully impacted, negatively impacted? I would say considerable. So something has to stop there. That, you just can't allow this procedure to go on. Everybody admits that downtown is congested. Now all of a sudden we're adding 47 to 52 spots within the last 3 months by the building inspector's judgment. No documentation. So we would like to follow up. I don't know if it's a responsibility of the lawyer, for the village, or the planning board, and the chairperson, but we would like to see the form, we'd like to see the procedure to appeal what the building inspector has done. Because he's doing no good for the 30-plus properties around this project. Meantime, it's like adding insult to injury, but the planning board, in their February meeting, changed the minutes from their October meeting to say that while the attorney and the consulting engineer were very determined that we should go, or we must go, or it should go, perhaps we should say maybe, or maybe we should go to the ZPA, the zoning board. Maybe the client, the applicant, should go. Why, after 4 months, did they change? It's just why? Just have to think, why did they change it? There were other errors on that page 3 that they never corrected. One of them was the planning board member said to the principal, Mr. Samuelson, how is this different from the one from 21-22? He said, well, that one had 12 apartments, and this one has 11, so we cut it down by 1. Well, that's not true. It was 8, and it went up to 12. He said that one had 6 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. This one only has 5. Well, that's not true. It was 4. It was 4 on the 2nd floor and 4 on the 3rd floor. So all I'm saying is, the planning board's correcting minutes of what their consultant said, and they're not correcting errors on the same page. And why do they do that? What does it mean? You grow more suspicious about what's going on here, and why is it going on? So meanwhile, the editing of that October 29th meeting, 4 months later, draw some concern and some suspicion. Now, maybe on a positive note, I've talked to a couple of neighbors and we've come up with some proposal. I don't know if the builders would accept it. I don't know if the community would accept it. But I'm going to lay it out there. Perhaps if the builders wanted to do the 11 apartments, they should do it on the 3 stories. Forget about the mixed use. They're talking about closing the restaurant and putting 2 apartments. That would give them 13. That was mentioned already. In the planning board limits, it said that 13 is the magic number for a lot this size. Then they have the offices upstairs. If they have 13 apartments, they need 26 on-site spots. With the offices, 15, they have 41. That would keep all, that would be in compliance completely with the code. 41 spots needed, 41 spots they have. As I said, I don't know if they want to consider that. They probably still get to their close to $1 million state grant, which would be a big boost. The neighbors would probably have less cars on their property and overnight, but that's up to other people. I'm here to say that the board should vote this down. It's not good for the village. It's not good for the neighborhood. It's not good for the people, 30 property owners. And it doesn't benefit the village. It doesn't benefit the comprehensive plan, as it has been suggested. It only hurts this section of the village, which hurts the whole village. And parking and traffic is not getting better. This area is the entrance, to north and south and to Middletown during the morning. And we see the backups constantly. This is only going to bring more, Charles Street is a walkway for people to go to the park, as in Bachelor Street. This project will hurt it significantly because it'll be 40 more cars, parked on people's lawns, which force cars to go to the middle of the road. So I respectfully ask that you vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Lavelle. One thing it may be legally right, but I don't think the way it's done is correct. I don't think it's right that the senior center now, that parking lot, we know it's a public parking lot, but now that's going to be used as, well, we can park there too. Then what it was there for was because of the senior center, because of the Little League, the seniors or the Little League are not going to be able to park there because of restaurant parking or whatever. So what we're doing is we're encroaching on the senior center. And what's the next thing we're going to be doing? Further and further? It could be legally right. I just don't want it. All right, next up is to request Board of Trustees approval on the Hanover project.
Michael, can we provide some responses or?
Go ahead. I still got driving Conic Park 8 miles an hour through my head. So
All right, thank you. Yeah, there's definitely some confusion about the parking and the previous plan. The previous plan had 12, this is the previous to the New York State Forward Grant application. That had 12 apartments maximum. The new plan that was submitted to the New York Forward and went back to planning board was 13. So there's only one difference in the number of apartments between the very original plan and this plan. Now, Mr. Lavelle suggested 11 apartments in one building and that would comply. The problem is that doesn't comply with zoning. You don't allow apartments on the first floor. Your code specifically is looking for a mixed-use building with commercial on the first floor and residential on the upper floors. That's compliant with zoning. Apartments on the first floor would not be compliant with zoning. I think that's it. Overall, the square footage for the property did go up as far as commercial, but it wasn't a 33% increase. If you look at the total property, it was less than 2,000 square feet, I believe, the total increase in commercial space.
Ross, I have a question for you, if it's okay to ask one.
Yep.
So you said you have, for have designated parking spaces.
Correct.
Will those be 24-hour a day, or will during the day will they open up to public parking? Will it be, in other words, will the parking be 9 to 6 a.m. and then it'll be available for public parking during the day?
It would be nice to be able to structure the signs that way, to have more joint use of parking. If the planning board would permit that, we'd have no problem with that. The code requires us to designate, or the planning board has for years required us to designate the residential parking on the site. Just because of the reason that the commercial has been exempt, so they want to make sure that in providing extra parking and making sure the residents have this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Oh, just one thing, was, been a lot of question about traffic, and I had pulled up the DOT website, which provides the average daily trips along 17K and along Union Street in the village. And over the last 3 years, the DOT's numbers say there's been a reduction in total traffic on 211, based on real data, so I mean, I'm not making up their information. So, a 9.5% reduction on 211 between 416 and 17K, and then a 4.5% reduction.
That was probably conducted when the culvert pipe was being rolled out.
22 to 24, so all post-COVID.
A few more potholes and they'll avoid it altogether too.
I would also.
That's up to you. Let me just say a couple things just real quick on this. So, first meeting I was here, the first time I saw this project, and since then I've looked at a bunch of materials provided by the applicant, provided by the village. And here's the issue I have, and I said this at the first meeting. This has been a project that's been going on 5 years, okay, with the planning board, and I've seen memos from your village engineer, I've seen memos from, your planning board in terms of the resolutions, I've seen your neg deck. So it's a very unique provision of your code that you have, okay? I know Mr. Capello alluded to it earlier. I too have been doing land use as long as you have, but I've also been doing it a long time. And it's a very strange provision in that code that says that, okay, if it's 4,000 square feet, commercial, residential, your board has to approve it. But it doesn't give you any other criteria. My concern, as I said from day one, there's a neg deck that's been issued for this project in the secret. So when you have a neg deck that's been issued by the lead agency, i.e. the planning board, there's not too much you, in terms of your board and the coordinated review on the secret, which this is, you can do, right? Because this statute doesn't give you any guidance in terms of what you can and can't do. It says you can issue conditions if you want to in your approval back to the planning board. Like I think Steve just had a comment about the parking, right? That's something if you want to approve it, make a motion to approve with that condition in and give that back to the planning board. You can suggest that.
Well, we'll give 20 spots then.
Right. I mean, that's something you can suggest, and that goes back to the planning board because they're going to need to go back there for final approval. But my point is, I'm reading these memos, and they talked about, and I know the speaker that was here earlier, I mean, they talked about the waiver, they talked about the 41 spots. I mean, it's looking at memos that were provided to me. So, and this was already had public hearing for the planning board. So, again, this is a 5-year process, and my concern is there's not too much this board can do. You have to send it back to the planning board with approval or not. My concern is if you don't approve it, you have a record here that is pretty detailed with respect to this applicant in the 5 years they put into the process. Again, you have a provision of your code that's not a special permit. It doesn't state that you can give variances because that's what the zoning board. You just have a provision in 122-52 and 53 that says, okay, these specific projects you get a veto, which is what it amounts to. And again, I've seen those provisions. Again, I've seen those provisions that don't work and they've been litigated. So it's a very odd provision in your code. I would suggest at some point you should revisit that, and I would recommend you revisit that. But as far as I'm concerned, you have a record here that would support the approval of this project going back to the planning board. Again, if there are specific conditions that you want the planning board to look at when they go back for final, that's what you can do. But again, it's hard for this board to come out against it when you have a record that's been going on for 5 years on this project. So that's my 2 cents. Again, I told you I would look at this when I first started here. I went through these documents, I went through the resolution, I went through the neg deck, and I went through the engineer memos, which talked about these very same issues. I got a memo for 2025, July, August, October, all from our village engineer. and I have a resolution from the planning board and a neg deck. So, to me, that means something. So, again, I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. Thank you.
I have a question that I think might have to be asked in attorney-client.
Do you have anything to say? If you want to take a brief recess, you can do that as well.
I have a question that I don't know that I should, if,
Okay, we'll do a brief recess.
I make a motion to have a brief recess for a very brief attorney-client privilege.
Sure. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're back. All right. Put this project up for a vote.
What if we have questions? We were told we could ask questions.
Request the Board of Trustees.
We have questions.
Request the Board of Trustees approval on the Hanover project. Make a motion. Second.
I'll second for discussion.
What was the motion?
To approve the project.
Make a motion. You want to talk on the Hanover?
Darlene made the motion, I seconded it for discussion.
Okay.
What's the motion?
All right.
Motion was to approve the project.
All right, Steve?
Are we having discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're in a position, because they've gone through all the appropriate steps to do what they want to do. I do appreciate that Ross came back and added more parking spaces. And I would suggest that we, if it passes, that it does go back to the planning board to try to look into some sort of variance as far as those permanent resident parking spaces being available during the day, even if it's one of the two for each apartment designated, so we open up another 10 to 20 parking spaces in this, which during the day would resolve that part of the traffic, and then at night, people would have places to park. Most of the restaurants are closing before 9, correct? During the week?
Yeah, right.
During the week?
No. I mean, they stop serving at 9.
Okay, that's it.
Depends on who's there.
Well, let's compare this with a funeral. I just came from one. The funeral's over at a certain time, nobody leaves for about an hour, hour and a half.
Right.
And then they hang out in the parking lot. So nobody leaves, close the door, knock the door.
I'm just concerned we don't have a legal basis to turn it down. That's where we are.
Can you speak into the mic? It's very hard to hear you.
I said my concern is our legal basis for turning it down. They've gone through the appropriate steps. This is a 5-year process, and they've done everything they needed to do, making an exemption after the fact. This is their property. They are built within what the use was. They applied for what the use was. That's just my comment.
Cynthia, you got anything?
I do not.
Darlene? I just want to say to Mr. Lavelle and to Mr. Hantush and to everybody that's taken time out and addressed the board and expressed their concerns and seen me, even for coffee in the morning, but standing on both sides of this table since 2018 when we first started talking about Medline. I think one of the most aggravating things is staring at a board, looking for information or education or eye contact or an acknowledgement that you're expressing a concern and that you've been heard. And I remember asking, if it's not your job, because you're all staring at me, whose job is it? Where does the buck stop? So I think there's been a lot of misses here. I think there's definitely a flow problem in the village. I think it needs to be addressed immediately. I think we do need more parking and we need to be more thoughtful about it. I think it's a miss on the comprehensive plan update, which is very recent. And it's a miss on how we are looking at procedure and communication. And those are all things that we need to work on immediately. And I have not sat on this board for long enough to have been part of creating the problem, which seems like the more research we do, been a 20-year process. But I will definitely take responsibility and ownership of solving the problem immediately. The board has already received information about counts of parking spots, suggestions of what we can do. We've already had discussions with the DOT about removing and replacing, and we have to follow the laws and the code as they've been laid out, and we're at the point where we have to make a really hard decision. But I just want to acknowledge that you've been heard and you've been considered, and I'm going to do the best I can with the rest of the board and the planning board to solve the problem immediately.
Another thing I wanted to point out is there is, when I looked into it, we had our meetings with New York Forward. There's been money designated to do parking and traffic studies for that area, and to have a planner come in and try to find the best way to resolve it, whether that be redirecting some traffic at the one-way streets and opening up diagonal parking, whatever that be, that have somebody come into there that does that for a living and look at the mess that we have down there and figure out how do we actually fix it. This parking problem existed long before Hanover. It's going to exist after Hanover if it goes. And I just see this as something that the board needs to suck it up and say, this is what we should have done and need to do, and move forward by creating that plan and actually finding some solutions, not pinning this on one project that may or may not. It's going to add to the problem, obviously. It's going to add cars, but it's not the cause. And so I think we need to get down to the root cause or we can't fix it at all.
I think this is the little guy coming in front of Village Hall, City Hall, and asking for help. That's what I think. That's what we're here for. I understand there's a legal challenge here, or whatever it is. My heart is with the people. All right. Make a motion? Motion, okay.
Can I just, if you're gonna make the motion, because I know Trustee Briani had a suggestion to go back to the planning board, so any motion to approve, I would say would be with the caveat that Trustee Briani's comment would be taken back to the planning board for consideration at this point, okay? So under that, I would read the motion, make the motion to approve with the condition that Trustee Briani's comments be taken back to the planning board for consideration by the applicant and the planning board.
What about, like I said at the beginning, is there any chance of the street signs that we're talking about?
That's a different issue altogether there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, make a motion to send this back to the planning board with,
Motion to approve.
all right, let him.
Yeah, motion to approve, okay, to go back to the planning board under section 122, 52, and 53, conditioned upon the comment by Trustee Briani for the planning board to consider his comment regarding the parking.
All right, make a motion. Make a motion.
It's already been motioned and seconded.
Yes, I need to make a motion.
Second? Motion, somebody make a motion on this?
It's already been a motion.
All right, second?
We
All
have,
right, Steve?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Consider approving the budget transfers for the current project 25-26.
Who's gonna read them?
You know which ones they are? We have a list of them? $270 finance contractual to Order. $5.05 finance contractual judgment claim. $20,000 street department equipment, snow removal overtime. $1,969.88 street department drainage to street department insurance. $1,001.93 street lighting contractual to sanitation equipment. $65,000 personal service to overtime. $5,000 equipment to overtime. $1,121.39 equipment repairs to insurance. And there's something else that I have waiting on deck, but I have to get a price quote from our superintendent of public works. I want to move money out of my funds, the mayor's funding, to fix the roof on the museum. Now, I can't do anything with that until we actually get a quote, so that'll be held up to a later.
Mike, not the roof, the spirals.
The roof,
The
yeah.
stairs, not the roof.
Well, if the roof is damaged and we decide to take them down, then it would be considered damaged roof. So, make a motion for these, to have these funds transferred over.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Me, Doreen? Sylvia? Okay, moved on. Scott? Consider approve the hiring of a new police officer, Scott Vecchio, as a full-time police officer at the rate of the current contract.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Second. Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Awesome, thank you.
Scott, you ready to hear?
Oh, I'm like, where'd he go? He was just way back there.
Folks, you're all welcome to go up and take pictures. Go right ahead.
You wanna do it up there?
Go.
I don't want to go up there. I don't want to go down here either.
First test.
Where it says I. I.
I, Scott Vecchio, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of full-time police officer according to the best of my ability.
Folks, let's give them a couple minutes so the families can take pictures.
Congratulations.
You want to get the rest of the family up here? Nobody else wants a picture of them? Did I hire wrong? Is the family not like them? Hold on to this for now. I'm gonna get you. Thank you very much.
Next up, consider signing the updated AIM budget increase letter to the governor and state legislature.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have it, and when are we gonna send it?
AIM is aid and incentives for municipality. That's what they're saying. Yeah.
And the state is fighting for it to be increased and made permanent, is the, I think is the ask, right?
I hope so.
Right?
Make a motion?
We have one.
We did.
All right, second.
We have one.
Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
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 Yeah. Approve the local law to override the tax cap for 2026. Did I do something? No. Well, we'll do that for the tax cap going backwards. Approve the local law to override the tax cap for 2026. Make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye. If we can just clarify for the public, this is to reserve the right to override the tax cap, not a goal or a promise that we were going to. Obviously, it's always our goal, but if we don't reserve the right now, it becomes an issue later, should we not be able to get below that point. And aye is my vote for the record.
I'm getting a text message that they can't hear something on the, somebody's texting me, you can't hear on the. Aye. Cynthia?
Aye.
All right. Accept the resignation of Attorney Marcello Sorigliano, effective March 25th, 2026.
I'll make that with regret.
Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Aye. Cynthia?
Aye.
Okay.
Might be still one more above it.
That might be an open term.
What did you say?
The standard work day, did we
I think we pulled that off.
Okay, so.
Okay, make a motion to appoint AHRB member to fill the vacancy, one vacancy, Jordan Marasco. I've done that, yes. No one right now. Make a motion, no, motion, just
Is that,
appoint.
you don't need a motion, is that just to fill a vacancy? Term? Yeah, it's not a motion.
I just have a question, not about Jordan, about having two members. Do we intend to appoint another member?
Yes.
And are we going to re-advertise that we're taking, did we already say we were looking for two members, or do we need to re-advertise that there's a position open for people to submit?
No. I'll just do the next one at the next meeting. Jordan?
If I have to.
You got it.
Well, you have to be eventually, within 30
Yeah, 30 days.
Yeah, I'll-
Yes.
or I can do it with the other one, if it's easier, whatever you do.
you want. Do you want somebody here while you're doing something? You want to go down? You can
No.
go up there now and
Yeah, I'll do it.
right now.
No pressure, Bree. You can come up. It's okay. I don't have my phone.
Read it just like, you're gonna start with the letter I, and then end down there.
I, Jordan Marasco, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of an AHRB member according to the best of my ability.
Thanks, Jordan. Okay, next up, we want to appoint Robert Rometta as the attorney for the court at the rate of $150 an hour per contract.
Is that replacing Marcello's position?
Correct.
And is that at Judge Fashion's suggestion?
Yes.
Is it her appointment to me?
No.
Just a suggestion? And
Yep.
then
It's her and the court clerk recommended.
And is that the same rate that, well, okay, thank you. I just
And
didn't
he's
know.
extreme. Now, I do want to say for the record that I like keeping things in-house, and I asked our attorney here if he had anybody in his firm to do it, and they were all tied up.
Prosecuting at night, all over.
Yeah, so all the temp was to our allegiances to our attorney and his firm.
But thank you.
Thank you. So make a motion to appoint him. Is he? I don't know.
No, that one you need a motion for, it's not, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I was talking about. We did it. Okay, make a motion to appoint him.
Go ahead, Randy.
Second.
I'll second it.
Steve?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
Aye. Darlene? Cynthia?
Aye.
Appoint. Next up, department heads. Joe, you go first, please.
All right. Can you hear me? Yes, no. I think so?
Gotcha.
All right, I'll talk loud enough, that's fine. All right, so our new niche RMS system is up and running. They'll probably say otherwise, but the officers are taking to it well. It's a lot to learn. It's
What
a
is
brand
that?
new system.
Sorry.
So the records management system that we're switching over to, sorry, abbreviations are a lot easier. Officers are taking to it pretty well, and it's a lot to learn this entire new system, so, but things are moving along pretty well. We had 109 reports in the month of February. We're going to see an initial drop in reports with this new system because we are doing not less reports, but there's less fluff, if we will, with it. So it's going to look like less, but it's not less. We have obviously the St. Pat's Ramble coming up. The PD took part in active shooter training in February at the Valley Central School District with the SROs and the Sheriff's Office SOC team, which is their tactical team. Obviously, we will be field training our new full-time hire. Thank you again for that. And he's a local kid and he's a work ethic for us. So we just had 2 of our officers receive training in Black Armor School, so we now can have all our new weapons serviced in-house instead of having to send them out and make sure that they're functioning and working properly. Like I said, we switched over to the new records management system, and that's pretty much all I got this time around.
Is that a cost savings to have them checked in-house?
Yes, and it's making sure that they work. I mean, it's effectively like having a repair shop in the station instead of having, if something goes wrong, we have to send it out. So.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Joanne? You're up.
I gave you my report.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay.
emailed everybody.
Yep, we all received it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you
Joanne.
have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Jake?
I'm not nearly as good as Joe, but again, so this is back February. As far as water, we averaged 285,000 gallons for the month. We did have another water break on the Beaver Dam, which was repaired, so I'm hoping to see that number go down. Sewer was 3.341 gallons that came in. Garbage, 91 tons of garbage, 18 tons of recycling. The only thing I would like to add is the spires up at the museum. I don't know if anybody noticed, we had another one break-free over the weekend. Luckily, the town was able to get it off with their bucket truck. Rod approached me this morning, said he had his drone was available. If we wanted to check it out, I told him I think that'd be a great idea, free of charge. So he took his drone up there, we looked around. The other 2 were not in the best of shape. I recommend we get them 2 down before they do fall, cause more damage. Hopefully, if the town can reach them with their bucket truck, they'll take them down at no cost, obviously. If they cannot, we will have to get a crane to get them down, and obviously there'll be a little bit of cost. But I'll keep you in the loop to see what happens there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Trustee updates? Steve, you go first.
So we've been working on the open space grants, looking for some areas in the village that we could acquire through this grant. We actually have found a spot in the middle of town, and we had it assessed with the open space grant. It has to fall in what the assessed value is. We can't offer more or less than what the assessment is. So we're approaching the owner now and seeing their response, because they have to check off on this process. And if that's the case, we apply for the grant. It can be up to 3.5. So for development of the property, it also puts aside money for sidewalks, and that would help fill in some spaces that we don't have covered right now. And that's where we are.
We discussed a couple of meetings ago making a uniform speed limit, and that some of the village-owned streets were not consistent between 25 and 30 miles an hour, and then that kind of fell off the radar. So we talked about setting on the next agenda, setting a meeting date for a public hearing for that, because it was the advice of council, both when it was talked about and recently, that we have to change all of them as one local law, correct?
If you want to change them, it has to be a local law. You have to have it in front of you first before you set a public hearing.
So we are going to have it on the next agenda to schedule a public hearing so that we can move forward on that and check that off the list. The other update is I did receive information back from the DOT regarding expedited permitting processes and different permitting processes. It's something that we've kind of talked about a few times on a few calls, but the new regional director did send back information about an inquiry. Your letter dated January 5th, 2026 regarding state routes 211 and 17K in the village of Montgomery has been forwarded to this department. Please note, while 211 and 17K roadway segments in the village of Montgomery are not in the current New York State DOT capital program, they remain candidates for consideration as new programs are developed and adopted at both the federal and state levels. In the meantime, New York State DOT maintenance staff in Orange County have been notified of these locations for the gigantic potholes that we have to make the necessary repairs to monitor and carry out maintenance. Regarding designating an alternative truck route, please refer to New York State DOT's previous correspondence dated November 2022. Attached herewith, to date, the DOT has not received the traffic impact study as requested. Additionally, local government can make improvements to the state highway system through the highway work permit process, as we all know. Should we wish to consider pursuing that project and enhance safety, please visit blah, 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 the following website. And I do have an invitation to set up another meeting, so I would like to do that with Jake and anyone else that would like to join from the board, but we've had quite a few meetings, and then we've followed up a few times with Alan Sorensen about the comprehensive traffic study regarding the alternate route for the trucks. And I do think we have the support of both Assemblyman Marr and Senator Rollison about changing the permitting process and allowing for some different, for some overlap so that we can fix things quicker. So those discussions were had when we were upstate in Albany, and then we've touched on some of them as well in the Zoom meeting. So I'd like to schedule that at your earliest convenience, if that's okay with you. But
Set it up and just let me know.
okay, but I'm making calls and writing letters and trying to make sure we're doing something, and I'll ask for another update from the county planner, Alan Sorensen, before the next meeting as well.
As that gal said, from here forward, we can leverage the money that's assigned there to use for the traffic study to cover that entire area, since it does fall within the same parameters.
Cindy?
Mine's quick, just since the last meeting that we had it, attended the 2 different trainings, brought a lot of information back for the police and DPW in reference to retirements for our Tier 6 guys and a lot of the changes that they're trying to make at the state level with the governor to upgrade Tier 6 information. So along with those trainings, I brought information back and continue to ask questions with both department heads. So thank you for your time with that for clarification. Also worked with Joanne a little bit on what most of you are hearing, which is the audio-visual project. You know, microphones are still an issue, and if you tuned into the Central Hudson presentation, you know, people were in the closet and they were playing with the machinery, and we were able to find a closet that locks and that would work for the equipment. And the equipment is failing, the old equipment. So even though we've done an upgrade, equipment's still failing, so we need new equipment, more microphones, and a locking cabinet. So that information will continue. I have it to submit to the village on Joanne's behalf. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody said Happy St. Patrick's Day, but Happy St. Patrick's Day. I want to take a moment of silence for Robin Reynolds. She was you did it right? Okay, I apologize. Again, it's running late. Cub Scouts, Pinewood Derby, I was at it. It was fantastic. And it was great. We all know the meeting was canceled March 3rd, the ice storm. We had a meeting with the Caboose Committee. We're looking into purchasing bricks, sort of like the Hanover, the preschool. We're figuring if the way we're planning the bricks around the Caboose, we're looking at anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 bricks. That'd be a nice fundraiser, something you put your name in and be there forever. You can have a memory of somebody, whatever you want to put on that, we can put on that brick and we'll be there. We had a problem with the pickleball courts where they were jumping over the fence here. That's under control now, Joanne? Thank you on that. I want to touch on the meeting with the town about 2 weeks ago with the sewer feasibility study. I'll give my opinion on the recent feasibility study, basically taking the town sewer and bringing it into our quaint little village. If you've not seen the feasibility study that was presented by the town of Montgomery to the public about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I encourage you to go online and view it yourself. If after you see it for yourself, if you see the town's presentation and still feel that the town's sewage should be brought into our village, I don't know what to say. If you watch we watched two different presentations then. I felt embarrassed for the presenter, the engineer, anyone else who's involved in selling this one-sided crazy idea to a village residents. I find it amusing now that I was so worried against this study and paying $7,500 out of the taxpayer money that I voted against doing this study. And I'm still against the study and the way it was done. My fear was, I believed that the study would be one-sided for the town, and it totally was. It was just so ill-prepared and presented that it destroyed itself. If you can't even do a professional presentation, sales pitch to the public about a massive project that will affect us for years to come, how can you possibly think we're going to sign on the dotted line for this? There's an incredible risk here, an incredible risk, with absolutely no reward to the village. Thank you to the Town of Montgomery Supervisor and the board for doing this presentation. I couldn't have messed it up any better myself. Then I also want to thank Jake Rob Sullivan. He has a drone, a legal drone. He flew over the museum over here to see the damage on the roof and the spiral was leaning over. And I wasn't there, but he did the water tower. He tested something over there too.
Yeah, check it out.
So that cost us nothing. That would have cost us a fortune. So, that's it for me.
I have a follow-up question when you're done.
I didn't hear you said that. You said Steve? Who said that?
I have a
I
follow-up
can't
when
hear.
you're.
I have a
when you-
hearing injury, a line of duty injury.
Okay.
So this is, I'm sorry.
I'm
injured in
repeating
line of duty, so
statement.
don't smile, it's not funny, but go ahead.
When you're finished.
Go ahead.
When you're finished, are you
I'm
finished?
I'm
Okay.
finished.
Jake, have you received the full copy of the feasibility study to go over yet, or any of the supporting documents that were listed? Okay. And have not had a chance to go over them yet. Okay. But there is some other discussion going on about forward motion in any direction for the village separately, or it's starting the conversation.
Oh, yeah, they still has to be discussed.
Okay.
Still has to, yeah, they're still looking into it.
Okay. I'm not putting you on the spot or asking you for an answer, but I would like you to consider possibly expanding the water committee that was initially intended to be a water sewer committee. Is it necessary to add a couple members and make it a cohesive thing so that they can start supporting you? If not, that's fine, but.
I don't think that'd be beneficial, Randy, for the simple fact, I don't know as much about sewer as I do the water.
Okay.
Well, what we approved was a water committee, it wasn't
Right.
a sewer committee.
It wasn't any
water
sewer.
committee.
So would you like them to be the sewer committee instead so they can do some research for you? You don't have to answer.
That's something we could talk about.
Okay, so let's talk about that offline before the next meeting, because we have to support you in this. And then, once you've reviewed it, can you please report to the board so that we can set a public meeting to share that information with the village residents so that they can provide their feedback on what they'd like to do?
I could. My thing, Randy, I feel I should stay neutral. For a simple fact, it's all gonna fall, if it happens before I leave, obviously,
Where you
I'm
going?
gonna be the one signing off on everything.
I don't want you to, so maybe I'm saying it wrong, I'm not asking you to give us your opinion, I'm just asking for you to relay the information as you've read it on the document.
Okay.
And once you understand it, then we can present it to the public. We can't present it to the public and ask for their feedback if you haven't had time to look it over, but time is of the essence, I would think.
I just wish it was presented to the public before we spent $7,500. But let's move on. All right, events, office news, the breakfast with the Easter Bunny and Egg Hunt, March 28th, 9 to 11. Who's right down here? right down here at the park. St. Patrick's Day Ramble Parade, March 28th, 2026 at 1 p.m. Open up the public portion. Yes, sir.
Doug Hantush, 2 Hanover Street. Please allow me to be the first to voice my displeasure and disappointment in the vote that was just taken on the Hanover Street project. Mr. Lavelle put together a great presentation based off of fact, not hearsay and not rumor, but fact. The project started out one way and ended up another. It went through what appears to be like a mix of mistakes that this thing was approved by, that this thing was approved for. And unfortunately, we're going to live with the results of it. Because you know as well as I do, once the weather gets a little bit warmer, there's going to be a backhoe over there. They're going to start digging it up, and when that foundation goes in, it's too late. They're not going to change it anymore. Now, this is a project that's being funded by our tax dollars, half funded by our tax dollars, and it's going to be a detriment to this village. The traffic is going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. And there's no way you can fix it. There's historic buildings on both sides of Charles Street. You can't widen the road anymore. Hanover Street's the same way. Bridge is the only place you could possibly do that. And we're going to get stuck with the results. I'm very disappointed in this. I can't believe that this was just voted on the way it was. I understand that you're in a bit of a corner, but you were placed in a corner by your own people. And we have to live with that decision now. I was on the planning board once. I went to the schools. I took the classes. I listened to the lectures. And I got replaced because I did my job. Somebody's not doing their job. And the sheer fact that the building inspector can come in and say, don't worry about it, you don't need it, that just seems wrong. I think that should go perhaps to the State Attorney General's office for further investigation, because this is just wrong. Last but not least, I'd like to say that I hope that my village board, who represents not only me, but everybody else in this room, will start to represent us and not a couple of speculators. Because these guys are here to make money. They don't live here. They're going to go home to their house, and everything's fine from their view. But those of us who have to live with the results, it's not going to be good.
Thank you. Next up, please.
Hello. Tracy Casey, 97 Washington Avenue. First, I have a question for Lino. Can you tell me why we were taken off the agenda tonight?
What are you here for?
We were here, I was here to talk about Caboose fundraisers, and Lori was on the agenda to talk about events, and we were told that we were taken off the agenda.
Right, so that's my call, because that's being done internally in my office, so that.
No, it has nothing to do with the event papers.
No, but the board has asked me to look at that, so I have to look at that, so I have to discuss with my clients, who are these folks here, before I get it to the public or anything else. So it's in my office now, that's why we're working on it, and like I said, until I'm satisfied with the work product that I produce, that I can discuss with the board, then we can discuss it.
The Caboose fundraisers as well?
That's another issue as well, correct?
It's an issue?
It could be.
Okay, so just to start off, I do believe the application to New York Forward did mention events happening in the village, which represents a significant aspect of our community, which included the Great Race, St. Pat's Ramble, 5K Run, and General Montgomery Day. Mentioning that the parade is a tribute not only to General Montgomery Day, but also to the strong sense of community within the village of Montgomery. In November 2024, Lori and I approached the board to regard events that we like to have in the village. Just try to give me a minute, because this has become very personal for me. And again, like, I'm a village resident, and I don't know how I could be taken off of the agenda without any prior knowledge. So, the board raised concerns that the application would need to be updated, we are still waiting for the updated form. Throughout 2025, we held events for our community and have donated 100% back to the community. In March of 2025, the Easter breakfast and egg hunt. In April, the pet adoption event, all with 100% of our proceeds given back to the community. In June of 2025, we held our first food truck festival, which I'm very happy to say, after countless volunteered hours, a very big success, which 6,000 people came through our village on this day. Lori, Mike Pagnotta, and myself were cleaning the fields of debris until midnight to make sure that the fields were ready the next day for games. Is this a burden we should have because of budget restraints? In September 2025, yet another successful General Montgomery Day, which has its own committee that we are part of. In October 2025, we had our first Touch a Truck Festival and Fall Fest in conjunction with the PBA, which again was a very big success. Our park was filled with touch a trucks, food, crafts, and lots of volunteers to have had this day happen. In December of 2025, we held the tree lighting event and our second lighted tractor parade. Throughout the year, Lori and I hold small events to donate to animal shelters, libraries, food pantries, firehouses, police departments, PBAs, etc. Always with 100% going back to the community, as I mentioned earlier. And Lori's
Lori Dahl, village resident. You sure? In February of 2026, we had a Valentine's Day breakfast for our village police department and local firehouse. Where was the support? Was the support mentioned when a board member took it upon themselves to notify the fire department not to have an event with Tracy and I because we are unreliable? Was that the support we got from the board? Well, that didn't work. Was the support in an anonymous member from the board, really not so anonymous, putting in a complaint to the liquor authority against the event we held? Well, that didn't work either. The complaint was closed in less than 24 hours. It only showed the local firehouse and police department where you stand. Are you trying to push us out? These events will happen whether they happen in the village or someplace else. Movie night was moved because of the board waiting for a response from you guys. These events take time and planning. I'm so tired of this board telling us that the forms are being updated and these things take time. This to me is just another one of your unfinished businesses from 2024. I have checked back consecutively with this board at every board meeting that I attended. Still no answer. I truly hope we can help on this. This is what the form they are waiting for approval says. Number 1, village events. Literally the only village event is Memorial Day. Number 2, private events. The car show ran by Tracy Casey, tractor parade by Sid Vanderlee, St. Pat Rambles by Tracy, Mark Devitt, and John O'Brien. Fall Fest through the PBA, Tracy and myself. Food Truck Festival, Tracy and myself. Trunk or Treat, Tracy and myself. Old Fashioned Christmas, Tracy. Pet Adoption, Tracy. General Montgomery Day has its own committee as well. Number 3, joint events. Based on discussion with others, this will not happen as event funding is not available through the village. Asking to cover police costs is not something any of the above-mentioned board members are willing to agree on. We've met with every event person, not happening. These events will be closed down. Yes, it's up to the police department to make sure our village is safe. This includes events happening in the village. To put the burden on the police chief and police department is truly unfair. I did hear through the budget meeting that you want to get rid of the celebrations. You want to cut it down? Donate it to the police department. If these events that are not village sponsored, which all but one not have approvals, they will not happen here, why can't a decision be made? These events are events that were already approved last year and same ones happening this year. Events need to happen in this village for our residents. The feedback is astonishing on the need for such events. Needless to say, I'm a very strong-willed individual. I did try to meet with a part of the board, but the meeting was canceled when they were made aware I was going to be in attendance. I have owned my catering company for 17 years. I worked for Orange County government for the last 11 years. I'm well aware of what is and what is not allowed at an event. I have ran and been part of 3,000 events in Orange County, Rockland County, Putnam County, Dutchess County, and Pennsylvania. So, how do we get these continuously happening events approved without hesitation from the board? Why is it that events that happen in the village, which are all non-for-profit, also cost $400 when our neighboring municipalities are $25? Who thinks of these numbers? We provide our own insurance to the village for these events to happen.
I'm sorry, Ms. Stahl, that's 3 minutes.
Okay, I have one more sentence left. At this time, I am submitting an application for the Fall Festival event to be in conjunction with the Touch a Truck event for October 24th. I'm asking for a response at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Next.
Mary Lynn, Robert Street in Montgomery. I have a question for the board. I would like to know when 2 taxpayer citizens ask to be put on the agenda and are done so, then they are removed. Tracy and Lori have been on the agenda for several meetings and then canceled. Tax-paying village residents need to be heard. These 2 are some of the best assets of the village. When they bring up items like the caboose, they are not people that want, sorry, I was they're not people, you cannot silence them. They will continue to speak up and speak out, and if they cannot have their events in this village, it will be well known why. Thank you.
Next, please.
Rob Soudan, 1 Pine Court, Village, Montgomery. A few weeks ago, I delivered 3 letters to the Village Hall. Excuse me. 1 for the mayor, 1 for the attorney, and 1 for the trustees. All 3 were different, but the subject was the same. None of you have responded to your letters. As a result, I don't want to hear anyone complaining about what comes next. Your opportunity to handle this in-house was afforded to you all, and you decided to pass on the opportunity. You should already know that you're playing a game of chicken with the wrong person. Mayor Henberry, I'll start with you. Out in social media land, there's a narrative floating around that the village is a mess. The village is a joke, and so on. Let me tell everyone the truth. The village is just fine. It's fine because the employees that serve the village daily, the office staff, the police, the DPW, the senior center staff and volunteers, the department heads, etc., are performing their duties on behalf of the people of this village. When you turn your faucet on, the water comes out. When you flush your toilet, the water goes down. When it snows, it's plowed. When it's icy, it's treated. The garbage gets picked up. The street lights come on at night. Our bills are getting paid. And police response time is almost instant. That's the real state of the village. Now on to old business. Trustee Figueroa, in November of 24, you announced to the board and to the public that you arranged for the purchase of 2 solar speed limit signs to be placed in front of the elementary school. You went on to say it usually takes about 3 weeks to get them installed. It's March 2026. Still no signs. Great job. You also went on to say you're going to coordinate with the PBF, the EMS, to put on a free first aid class because of your experience of happening upon an accident where a cyclist was struck by a vehicle and you're not knowing what you could do to help. Did I miss the class offering, or is this another example of promises made, promises not kept? Trustee Noble, way back at the first meeting in September, you said you are as concerned about the fire hydrants as the public is, and that at the next meeting there would be a plan presented as to how it's going to be dealt with. Promises made, promises not kept. One of the duties of the board is management of village property. One of our ball fields was used by a private for-profit company to hold a baseball camp for $225 per child for a week. There was no contract, no insurance, no payment to the village. How did it happen? Trustee Imbriani, you have an explanation for this. Aren't you the safety officer on the Little League board? I brought this up before, no explanation from the property managers. Someone uses this building 2 nights a week to run a fitness class, for profit. No contract, no rent payment. Just a several-year-old resolution to allow it. How is this allowed by the property managers? The village museum is literally crumbling from the top down, and not a word about what to do from the property managers. Why? Because you're all hung up on putting on a show, cosplaying the role of a trustee, living out a fantasy of being powerful people, when the truth is you probably can't spell the word trustee. In closing, village life is great. The problem is you. and your mission to flex by cutting down everything that makes this village shine. Every event is on your chopping block. The trustees of this village are a dishonorable disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Hi, Amy Dosey, 79 Charles Street. I just want to reiterate about the Hanover project that you voted yes on tonight. Again, you don't know what the commercial is going to be on the ground floor. If that is a restaurant, you are deficient in parking. They are still basically 40 spots deficient. The resident parking should be 24 hours. Because if I'm homesick on a day that I'm supposed to be at work, that should be my parking spot. You know, if I run out to the grocery store and come back, that should be my parking spot. 24 hours a day, I shouldn't have to worry about, am I gonna come home today and I'm not gonna have a spot, or I have to fight apartment 2 to get my apartment spot, parking spot back? And the parking that's down here or up there, how many people, if their parking spot of a resident is taken, they're gonna park down here or go up there. They're gonna take another spot that's either another resident that lives there or a spot that's closer, like in front of my house, that they've been doing. Building inspector, let's go back to that. It's been happening for 20 years, and I can give you numerous examples. I live in the village for 20 years now. What's been happening with the building inspector and things that he's been doing in this village. And once again, it's a proven case that he just gives out parking variances for a new building that's going up. That's a problem. This project's been going on for 5 years. And it's gotten to this point. And again, the last time I spoke, I said, please go back and look at the minutes. Like our counsel said, he went back and looked at, there are a lot of missteps in there. And your hands are tied. You had to come back and say yes. Because for the last 5 years, whether you were on this board or not, all those things went past you. So now here we are, and let me give you the pictures of in front of my house, in front of everyone else's houses that live on Charles Street, on Bridge, on Hanover. They park in front of our driveways. They park in front of my house all night long. The street is on both sides parking, and they're gonna put a sidewalk there as well, which makes a lot of sense because it's gonna go on the other side where 88th Charles Street, the restaurant is. So it's gonna be about 20 feet of sidewalk. Not on my side, which would be an entire length of a sidewalk. So that makes sense. But I will give you pictures that will show you people parking in front of driveways, in front of my house, the cluster, the narrow street. But we don't need a traffic study done. We don't need, there will be no impact to anyone's lives.
Thank you. Next up, please.
Karina Tipton, 225 Union Street. I came here tonight, I left a house guest at my home to come here tonight to speak in favor of the sewer study. And Mayor Hembry, I do not need your embarrassment. I am in favor of this study, and I honestly think that these identity politics that are taking place at this level are going too far. The village of Montgomery is going to have to do something. The state of New York is going to hold us to an increased permit requirement. They told us already, we know this is going to happen. And we have an opportunity now to look at a feasibility study, the sole purpose of which was to evaluate if it was feasible to move forward. It is not a roadmap to move forward. It is an evaluation of whether or not it's worth talking about moving forward. And I feel as a taxpayer who does not want to shoulder the burden for a new wastewater treatment plant in my rates alone, without the additional grants that we could get by partnering with the town, I feel it is worth evaluating whether or not you want to continue. Stop posturing. Stop playing identity politics. I'm expecting this board, I am calling upon my elected representatives to represent me from a position of science, from a position of fiscal stability and fiscal planning, and from a position of actually evaluating what is best for your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Mark Palczewski, 214 Tompkins Road. I have three things that I want to discuss, or three things I want to comment on. First is the Orange County Open Space Grant. Mike, this is what I was trying to talk to you about last Thursday. I never got a phone call back, but if you look into it, and I sent an email today to the board, except for Darlene, I'm sorry, I don't have your email address, but this gives you up to 50% of the purchase price, or the development rights, to keep open space. I can put you in touch with Chris Chapman from the Orange County Land Trust on this. You talk about KSH, Weaver Street, how you want to protect it with grants. Well, you need to act on it instead of just talking about it. Okay, I've tried to get you with the open space grant from the DEC. That didn't come to anything. Here's another opportunity. Please act on it instead of just talking about it. Sewer study. Okay, I'm not in favor of it, but I was in favor of the study. And as you stated, the study revealed how bad it was. There's nothing to be afraid of in the study, okay? My problem with it is who runs it, okay? It said that the village runs the village part, the town runs the town part. If there's something that comes between it, if there has to be a decision made, who's in charge of that? And there was no answer for that. Second thing I have a problem with is the village infrastructure. All of a sudden, you're going to dump over 1 million gallons into our infrastructure. It may not be able to handle it. So that's a problem. And the third is, when this hooked up to sewer district 1, if it goes, and I hope it doesn't go, we have no control over who hooks up to sewer district 1. So they could expand it, they could hook up things we don't want, we have no control over because the town controls that. So I am not in favor of the study at all. I'm not in favor of the hookup at all. I think it's not good to have it come to our sewer district. If they want to create wastewater treatment outside the village, that's fine, but I'm not in favor of us teaming up with the town right now because of these issues. What a waste of time to argue about that study. It proved that it's not viable, at least in my eyes. But what a waste to spend all that time and argument you guys had for nothing, absolutely nothing. Your fear was for over nothing. And the third is the Hanover Street project. This brings back memories, and Tom Steve's right here, of the Tompkins Road issue we had in 2009, okay? We lost 2 neighbors in our neighborhood because of easements that were required by Central Hudson. That could have been resolved if the village did the right thing, which they didn't. This Hanover Street project, if it's been being kicked around for 5 years and it's an issue, why do we get to this issue to the point where we have no control over it and we have to go forward with it, whether we like it or not? It should never get to that. I don't know the details that much, so I can speak to the details of it, but it should never get to the point where we have to choose what's not good for our neighbors and our neighbors. So, and it's a shame that it gets that way. And I hope whatever the issues were that got us to this point are correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Good evening, Walter Hookey, 99 Union Street. A couple things. We saw it last meeting, we're seeing it again tonight. Rules of decorum. As some of you may remember at the last meeting, there was a citizen who addressed their comments to one trustee. That same citizen addressed to several individual trustees. Also wrong was another citizen who continually interrupted that first citizen. I'm requesting that you, this board of trustees here, enforce the rules of decorum that you adopted. I understand, sir, you were not here. Your colleague did the best that he could. We're hoping for you to advise this board. And it says here, like we said, all speakers, including the mayor and village board members, shall refrain from partisan political commentary, personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks directed at any member of the board, staff, or general public that disrupts the meeting. Any person who makes remarks or otherwise disrupts the meeting with loud outbursts that second person did, Shouting, that second person did. Threats or disruptive conduct, shall, not may, shall, at the direction of the mayor or after a majority of the vote of the board. It's not only up to the mayor. Every one of you on that board can vote for a motion and a majority consensus of that board for that individual, either of those individuals or any individual, to be ruled out of order, which is to serve as a warning. Not even get into removing people. We understand that goes into another world. But there should be warnings to people who are breaking these rules that you adopted. Speaking of decorum, a comment we all just heard, I couldn't have messed it up any better myself. That is one of the most sarcastic and unprofessional comments we've heard in a long time here, and this ties right into the June 16th, 2025 Ethics Board findings of the environment that is created by people who can't put their egos aside and conduct the business of this village. And these comments are really not appropriate. I do appreciate these microphones. I appreciate this. I appreciate that there will be a plan for each of you to get your own microphone. We have to keep that going. The water treatment plant, I'm not an expert in that, but it should be discussed. Everyone should be putting aside their own problems with people at the town, problems with fellow board members, and like the smartest person in the room just said, think about the science. The science and what's the best for the village, not the history of people's problems with other people, and it has to be about the science and the infrastructure of this village. The last thing is the budget process. I appreciate the board meeting for that work session. We are all looking for an update. I heard no update on that, and I hope there will be a public presentation on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
Hi, Jason Dosey, 79 Charles Street. Mr. LaBelle's presentation was excellent. I thought it was just shows the embarrassing level that the village planning board has fallen to over the past 2 decades, whether that's the board themselves or the building inspector himself. Just statements that are like prima facie absurd. The board finds that the proposed action will not have a significant adverse environmental impact on traffic or transportation. That's ridiculous. We know it will. So that said, one thing about mixed-use parking, my understanding is mostly for things like churches and schools, not necessarily for residences. But if that person has, you're probably going to make the problem worse by doing that, because that person's going to be sitting in their house, have to move their car if they work from home. Where are they going to park it? In front of my house now. So they're not going to leave, right? So that's an issue. I think that that's probably a non-starter. And frankly, like I am disappointed. I know that this has been going on for 5 years now. But one of the things that you, it may not have involved all of you, but you wanted to be up there. You wanted to be elected a trustee, and you capitulated because you were afraid you were going to get sued. So that just happened right here. Last thing I'll say is, of the 200 some odd parking spaces that they said they were going to have downtown, you'll have 3 less, because I'm going to contribute to that parking disaster by parking my cars on the street, not my driveway. Thank you.
Which we have been doing.
Is that it? Okay, Tom Steve, 205 Tompkins Road. You know, the 2 most important metrics that I learned at the town's presentation, okay, was the village's limit and average use, the town's limit and average use. Now, the village has a limit of 50 million gallons a day. We only use 38 million gallons, which we are at 76% of our capacity. The town has a limit of 1,400 and 50 million gallons a day, and they are now using 1,420 million gallons a day. They're at 96% of their limit. The village isn't in trouble. The town's in big trouble. And then I asked engineer Jim Farr if the town has a strategic plan to build a wastewater treatment plant, and he doesn't. So I said, Steve, Breshka, what are you waiting for? You're at your limit.
Thank you.
And with that, we make a motion to adjourn. Second?
Just in case you didn't read, most precious blood
Steve.
is Walden. They're all on, it's like the Catholic Church in Maybrook. They come along and, the end of the school session, most precious blood is.
Okay, adjourn. Good night.